Hello and greetings, fellow Yu-Gi-Oh players. Today I want to bring you something very cool and very interesting, which is my version of the Drytron deck. Of course, this is not the 0815 fairy type version you will mainly see, but I will of course have the Dynamo combo in it, but also something very spicy in the deck for myself. Something I came up with, and that works very well up until this day, and indeed keeping up with the meta very well. And without further ado, let's get started into the deck profile. My first card I am playing is of course the turn skip combo, which means I play one copy of Thunder of Ruler, which just allows us to skip the battle phase of our opponent to then just take the entire turn away from him and pseudo FTK him, to say it there. The next two cards I have in this deck are evenly matched, two copies of Raw Sphere Mode, depending on how you want to go into the matchup. I want to either have two copies of those cards in the main deck just to get rid of some problematic cards on the field, but overall I want to play two. If you want to replace them with anything else you can, or just want to play Ultimateness or one of the fairy things, you just can, doesn't really matter. I just found out that ratio works pretty well for me, so I'm just going with that. The next cards I am playing is something of course every ritual deck for Drytron has, and every ritual deck in general, which is Preparation of Rites. Just for us to search Benton out of the deck and to get back our ritual spell should we not have any access to it from the graveyard. I played two copies of it, just having found out that this ratio just works the best for me, and of course I had needed a few little spaces for other cards I run in this deck, and this is not as important as I thought it would be, but anyways, up to next copies, I play 3 Cyber Emergency. Cyber Emergency of course is our searcher for any level 1 Drytron card, just to get it into our hands, or sometimes even bait, because I want to have the next card I will show you resolve more importantly, because it generates us the turn skip play and of course the full board with the Dynamo combo. As such, 3 is pretty good if you just have the means in place for it. Next is the little spicy thing I've talked about. I play 3 copies of, and this is Chaos Space. Chaos Space is a card I found out works pretty well with Drytron, given that they want to go to the graveyard to just recycle themselves throughout the effects. And of course you can search out very powerful cards like Levineer, the Collapse Serpent and its brother. And of course if you play the Chaos Max Dynamo combo, you can search out Chaos Max Magician with this card. And as well, if any of your not normal summonable or set cards is banished, you can just get them back into the deck and draw on top of that. And with that of course enables us to go into Baroness with the Herald of the Arc, Diviner of Heralds. As such, 3 cards with this name is very important to just see them as often in your hand as you want. To just start off the combo, I play 1 copy of the Fleet Spell Drytron Fafnir. Just to say this, Fafnir is a card I don't want to see very often, and if I do see him, it just comes to overall to right time and right spot. But the 1 copy is just enough. If you play too often, it can be a break in your hand, and if you play it none at all, then you just miss something that you can go into furthermore. Then of course, with the current meta we have that relies with Kashtira on banishing a lot, we have the 2 copies of the Ritual Spell, Drytron Meteornus. As I said, because of Kashtira, playing 1 extra copy is just very useful and very much sensible. As such, 1 gets banished, you just have 1 left that you can just play out with every way you want. But since we play the Dynamo combo and the turn skip combo in 1 deck, we'll just use 1 copy either in your first turn anyways. If 1 gets banished, you don't really mind at all. If 2 get banished, that's the problem. The next spell cards and the last spell cards of course are our Drytron Nova. Drytron Nova is a card that I play because it just summons the Drytron cards from level 1 up onto a field, just to start our combo into Link Kuribo, climb up the Link ladder, and then you know the usual combos with it. And such 3 is very important, as I want to see this card as often as possible in my hand. If not, I still have Fafnir to search for it, but other than that, having them in the hand and just throwing out as a bait for your opponent to just ash it immediately, so you can either play the Cyber Emergency or the Chaos Space as a follow-up. Next are the little supporter cards I have in this deck, just as the Diviner of Heralds and a few others that just synergize with Chaos Space. If we speak about Diviner of Heralds, I play here 1 time. 1 is very much enough, as we don't play a fairy variant as such. You just have to search out the Chaos Max with it, or the amount that you're paying for the turn skip, and go into the Beatrice. If you can't, of course, if your opponent just ashes or anything, you just go out into something else, as you start out with a turn skip combo, but you can go into plan A, B and C very quickly, and if your opponent knows when to negate it, you just can have still a little out, as you will be still left with a very powerful board your opponent has to play out first. but 1 copy is enough. If you want more, of course 3 or 2, you can just replace them with the evenly matched / the raw sphere mode with it and just have 3 copies of the Diviner. Next is the light and dark dragon duo we are playing. This duo is perfect for this deck. Not only can you easily search this Collapse Serpent, because every 90% of your deck is light attribute, as that Chaos Space works perfectly with it. Wyvern Dragon is just searched out by the Collapse Serpent, and with its abilities you just can extend into further link plays or just go into Baroness with the Diviner of Heralds. As easy searchable as they are with their summoning condition, just going into the limitations that Drytron will build you up towards if you activate their effects, this is just perfect cards for them to play, and without the heavy cost to summon them out into the field. And of course Ninja is perfectly with Chaos Space, just creme de la creme on the icing. Lastly, for support cards, one that has put me out of many clutches, which is Chaos Dragon Lavinia. I originally also played the Blackluster Soldier, but as he is light attribute, he is much harder to search out with Chaos Space than Lavinia, because Lavinia is a dark attribute. As such, like 90% of our deck can search him out, and it's very helpful because you banish 3 variety of light and or dark monsters just to pop up some cards, shuffle something back, or special summon a monster from your graveyard to the field. As such, we have many targets like Baroness, like one of the Bentons, one of the ritual monsters and such, if they were already summoned before. And helps to extend out the plays and go for an OTK, which is very impactful because your opponent most often will not see this card coming. Of course, now coming to our Drytron package, the first card we are playing is Drytron Beta Rastavan. Of course, I am aware the Ferian or many other players do not play Rastavan, but Beta has a very useful skill where you can take a banished Drytron monster and put it back into the graveyard, which with Chaos Space we just can banish if we want to and if we have to, and get it back with Beta anyways later on. The more names we have to activate, the better it is. But since Beta's effect is not really that strong, we only play him at once, which is not like the other Drytron names which we play at 3 all. First off, we play 3 Drytron Delta Altais. Altais is a very good card, to be honest, letting you draw 1 card by showing a ritual spell or monster, and such with a Drytron name being it. You can go quickly with another into Fafnir, just to mill a Drytron name, or just use the materials as XC summoning material as ritual sacrifice, so to go into further combos. What would be the stick without Gamma Eltanin? Gamma is the card we are playing because we want to have this extra special summoning to extend our combos further, either for the turn skip or for the full board of the Dynamax combo, and Gamma helps out ourselves very much with that, and besides just wanting to see him as often as possible in your hand is a very good sign to play him at 3. Of course, to search out a ritual spell, we have 3 copies of Drytron Zeta Aldivar. Aldivar is the card that helps us very out just by searching out the ritual spell, helping us out with ritual summoning and such, and since we play him 2 times, I mean the ritual spell, or Zeta, because we have him 3 times, it is a bit easier to just have it in hand if we are lucky enough to see it in our starter hand. So we don't really need him and can go into other cards that we want to mirror with Mu Beta Fafnir or any other searching out with Cyber Emergency and such. Yeah, helps out very much. At 3 is a must. And of course, how can it be? We have the Drytron Alpha 2 Barn in our disposal. This helps us searching out our ritual monsters we need, like Chaos Max, the Bentons, or the Armor of Witch Pain, just to go into our combos. Of course, if you can search out Max with Chaos Space and sending him to the grave, just the perfect starter you can have, and from there on going out into either combo you want. So 3 times is a very cool and must thing. So coming up to our ritual lineup, coolest packaging you can imagine, which is 1 Natasha and 2 Benton. The 2 Benton is just to extend our combos and get to rather important pieces into our hands, like the Diviner and Natasha, and then to extend into Beatrice and such, just to have more combo variant. And Natasha, of course, if you play the card with, let's say, the Goddess of the Underworld, you just can snatch away your opponent's cards, and with a little Xyz monster in our deck is just the perfect thing to build up your linked ladder and go to higher numbers as we go on to further plays. So having 1 Natasha and 2 Cyber Angel Bentons is just the way we need to think. Then of course the combo itself, Chaos Max and our turn skip, Armor of Witch Pain. This duo is like everything our deck centers about. Either going the turn skip route for our first attempt, and if that fails somehow with hand traps of the opponent, we still can go into Chaos Max, enabling us to just trigger off in the standby phase if we have an effect that can trigger in the standby phase, or in the main phase if you don't. But anyways, your opponent is locked in some way, shape or form from either activating monster effects or outright playing the game at all. But yeah, very well. The first thing I have to point out though is, depending on where your opponent interrupts the turn skip play, you can just quickly switch into the dynamo play and still keep the Amorphage Pain on the field, because every Xyz monster we have until then is just unnecessary, and having this tool is just very cool. But most openly you just get switched immediately and use one Aether. But anyways, these two cards are the most powerful houses in our deck. But when it comes to clearing the field fully, we have of course Drytron Dra. Dra is the card we want to have to go for clearing board, or the OTK variant if we just want to have a quick game that ends immediately in a battle phase. Run over your opponent's special summoned monsters and end it here and there. Help me out with Kashtira a lot, because if they put out their own resources to just negate the shit, put it onto the field, run over the monsters your opponent has and end it all here and there. Very cool card. I even have the Qua in my side deck just for backrover heavy decks, so I can switch out whenever I want depending on the situation of the game. So with our main deck completed and shown to you, let's look at my side deck and see what cards I run here. First off, we have of course the starter enabler Link Kuriboh. To get our Drytron cards from the field to the graveyard by summoned either by Nova or any other way, Link Kuriboh helps us just to extend the plays, and even for the turn skip is an important thing to have on the field, because the Griffon will be summoned below him, so your opponent is locked by the effect of his special summoned monsters per Griffon's effect. The next card we have is Dynamundo. This card is very amazing. Like, to be honest, it is very good. Not as good as I thought it would be, but it is good. Enabling us the Dynamundo max lock. It is a very cool card, just in general, to go into. And yeah, this is everything we have. We play one copy of it. Of course, Kashtira can banish it, but you have so many other options in this deck that it doesn't really matter if they banish one or two of them. Next we have, of course, is a little IP Masquerina. Masquerina just helping us out to go into anything we want that it will be protected, be it a goddess, be it Bowl Sword Dragon. So the next card is a card I do not possess currently in the extra deck, which is the Access Code Talker. As Drytron can put up a huge board in a few seconds, 5 cards on the field are a very easy way to summon Access Code Talker to the field. And of course, if you have Natasha, snatching away your opponent's cards to summon Access Code Talker is a little neat thing to just get it on them nerves. Then we have the Nightmare Grive, as I said, just enabling us to turn skip to set the Thunder of Ruler from the graveyard. Both the goddess just to have the negates on the field, and it is a neat option card if you can go into it. But also just to have the OTK option and to run over opponent's monsters. And of course, my favorite thing to do going second, playing the goddess of the underworld. With Natasha in our deck, we can snatch away opponent's cards, but also with the goddess of the underworld to just maximize our outplay. Then of course, typical for every Drytron deck, Herald of the Arclight, Baroness de Fleur. De Fleur is a card we can go into very easily, especially if we go the Dynamax combo, as the full board will consider her in defense and another card to just have interruptions, or should your opponent have an answer dynamo, we just can negate the answer quickly and just go through the play fully without worries. Then of course the Beatrice, doesn't matter which combo you choose to go, she is a very important part of it, because when you do not have one piece in your hand, you can just quickly mill it into your grave just to get it. And for the turn skip, she is essential. And a little replacement for Zeus, we have Utopic Draco Future. Future is a very cool card, to be honest, and I think I like him even more than Zeus, because he just snatches away opponent's monsters. I love that if a card can do that, because you just you don't really have to necessarily take your resources, just can take your opponent's resources, power them a little, and then just go into your place. And with Baroness and Tim on the field, we have Dynamo to just go for our combo without any worries. Mu Beta Fafnir, we have 2 copies just to summon out to Big Draco Future. And in general, just a very good card with negation for spell and traps. And of course, milling our deck for Drytron cards being in the grave. So playing 2 copies is very essential for this deck, which brings us to the last points. I have played Drytron long before it was very cool, like long before. I would say, and do a hyperbole statement, I was one of the pioneers of Drytron. But yeah, so I tried out many different variants, and this is the last thing I have ended up with, and I'm very much happy with this version of the Drytron deck I'm playing. Yeah, of course I cannot show you a side deck because I don't have one yet, except a few cards here and there, which are like the basic things, Dark Ruler No More, the Qua I have mentioned, Vanity Sula and such. But of course I will get those cards because I want to start the local tournaments here in Mannheim participate and win them. So of course what I can say you is that I will definitely play three modes of Raw, evenly matched, Dark Block, which I have already, Lightning Storm, Drone Lockbird, and Nibiru, such cards that can help in much varieties of the game. What you have to consider is, I hope my deck profile was something of your interest. You can replicate it to the best of your abilities and have a bit of fun with it on your locals or with your friends. And of course, if you have enjoyed it like I asked you, please give me a subscription if you are liking it. If you want, comment your versions of your Drytron deck, I would love to see them very much so. So yeah, check out my other videos and I will see you soon. Ciao, my friends.